Hello, I'm Will. Plausible excuse. Right, what is it? Well, how many times in our lives have we had to use an excuse to end a conversation or not necessarily get away from somebody that's being, shall we say, violent? Could be just being irritating. However, we've all used some form of excuse. Now, when you work alone, you sometimes might, shall we say, have to engage with people that are taking up too much of your time or even possibly showing a degree of threatening behaviour towards you. So we all use what's called a plausible excuse, a line or sentence that we can use to, shall we say, let us leave the room safely. Now, I get asked during my sessions what's my favourite plausible excuses, and I always say, well, I have my own favourite that match my own mannerisms or the way I shall engage with people. What I also say to my attendees is, well, it's really down to you as well to think to yourself, well, what would sound convincing from me to the individual to convince them that I do actually have to leave? So what I did was I had a quick look through all my notes, and as I've been speaking to people over the past few weeks about it, I've picked 3 that seems to be at the top of the list, and they're in no specific order. So let's have a look at what type of plausible excuse might work for you. So before we even, shall we say, go into the meeting, we've got to put in, shall we say, preparation. Like, for instance, have we researched who we're meeting? Have we, shall we say, thought about making sure that our colleagues know that we're going into this meeting? Not only that, if we actually think that there is a risk, we've also, shall we say, had a code word with a colleague to call you. You give them a certain keyword to make them, shall we say, aware that you're okay, or you might have some concerns. And again, you'll find loads of videos on the channel that actually talk about things like code words and inclusive of safe zones. So let's have a think about 3 types of different, shall we say, plausible excuses to hopefully not be used, but be there in the case that you have to use them. So the first plausible excuse I was talking to my colleagues about, and I was also talking to my attendees about, was what everyone likes to call the notebook method. And what it basically is this. Simple. What you actually do is, in your notebook, you actually write in your next meeting before you go into this visit. And what basically happens is this. If it gets to a point of where you actually have to excuse yourself, you turn to the person and say, I am sorry, I've got a meeting. You actually say to them, look, I've even got it logged down here and I can't be late. If they turn around and say, well, am I not important? Am I not, shall we say, high on your list? You then turn around, if needed, and say things like, well, it's actually a personal meeting, I'm afraid. Because, you see, when you use that word, personal, sometimes, it does actually, shall we say, make people go, oh, it's personal, and take a little bit of a step back, even if they're emotional. And from the experiences I've got from the attendees on my course, the notebook method does actually work. But again, it's down to timing and the way you deliver it in a more of an empathetic way. So the next method is what we call the 2 folders. Now, what it basically is this. This folder is the actual folder that you can actually use. That means it's got all the information in there that you require to, shall we say, conduct the support meeting or the interview or the inspection or whatever it is that you're actually doing. The second folder, which is this one, is something that has nothing in it of relevance. It's handouts, bits of blank pieces of paper, a couple of charts if needed, but there's nothing relevant in that folder. Now, I also say this works ideally if you've arrived by vehicle. So, you go into your meeting, you conduct your meeting, and at a point, there's a moment where you think to yourself, I really need to get out of this meeting, or I need to end this meeting. And this person is not going for any, shall we say, other plausible excuses that you're actually using. So you say to them, I need something for my vehicle. So again, what you do is, you leave the red folder on the table, you take your other items, and you go to your car. From experience and speaking to people, high percentage of people don't really follow you because, well, you've left something in the room. I've spoken to a few civil service and public service people over my career, and what they've also told me is a couple of them have actually gone in with, shall we say, old mobile phones. So they've taken an old mobile phone in, left it on the table, kept obviously their own in their pocket, so the person thinks that's their mobile phone, done the actual meeting or conversation, realised they've had to leave because it's getting heated, said they're going to go and get something, the person has believed that they're going to come back because they've left their mobile phone. Or even one lady told me once that she actually left a set of glasses intentionally as a distraction. Again, methods like that, or what you're going to leave in the room, are all down to your own personality and who you are. It's also having that confidence to do that. But believe it or not, the two-folder trick is used quite, shall we say, often by many people I've worked with, and it seems to work. So, the next one is what we call the mobile phone method. Now, it doesn't matter if you're carrying an Android or an Apple phone. And what you actually do is this. Before you go into the meeting, what you can do is actually convert your alarm clock to what we call your ringtone. Simple. So that means that when your alarm clock effectively goes off, it sounds like your ringtone. And what you do is you set your actual alarm to 15 minutes into the meeting that you're about to go into. Some people try to use a timer, but once you stop the timer, that's really it. But they set the alarm clock for about 15 minutes or whatever you think's a suitable time. Then when you're in the meeting, your phone will naturally ring because it's your alarm going off. Now, what you do is, if you're 100% happy, it's simple. You stop it. That's it. That's the end of it. If you're not too sure, you're still not 100% happy, you hit the snooze button, because then what happens is the phone alarm, which is your ringtone, will ring again in 10 minutes from then. Now, this is the trick I always say to people as well. The important part is that when your phone rings, don't pretend to answer it. Press it to stop it if you need to, and then say, oh, I do apologise, that's my boss. I'm sorry, under GDPR, under data protection, I've got to take this call privately. I hope you give me a minute or two. And then leave the room. What I've found from some of my attendees, when they've been honest, is that they've actually told me they've actually answered the phone. And then the other person's been looking at them strangely. Because you know yourself, when you're close to somebody and they're on a phone, you can actually hear some form of sound or some form of, even words sometimes, from the other person that's talking on the phone. So again, don't pretend to answer the phone. Again, all these types of plausible excuses, you are really supposed to design them around your own, like I said, mannerisms and the way you actually conduct yourself and the way you actually talk to people. But again, at the end of the meeting, and you've had to use your plausible excuse, is it not worthwhile recording why you had to do that? I'm just saying. Just because you've used a plausible excuse and got safely out, that's not the end of it. Because you've had to use something to end the meeting, you need to reflect upon it and say, why did I do it? My final point is this. If you work on your own and you actually do meetings and you actually go, shall we say, visit people in anything kind of respect, whether it's to check on people through support, whether it's audits, whether it's interviews, where it's, shall we say, investigations, you should really have some form of plausible excuse that you keep in your back pocket to help you leave or vacate a meeting. Thank you for watching. Stay safe whatever you're doing. Please continue to watch our videos. Please continue to send in suggestions. I do love them. And then what I try to do is, when I get enough, shall we say, suggestions on the same subject like this, I make a video. Bye for now.